Good morning, everybody. It's Patricia, and I want to welcome you to the dialogue. So I want to first start off with this brief, we'll say, service announcement. Yesterday on Facebook and a couple other social media platforms, I was able to release my new podcast series. You guys know that it's called The Dialogue. However, this specific podcast series, which is over 2 hours, actually 2 hours and about 19 minutes of information, talks about fulfillment. So many of us are on a journey in life to seek ultimate fulfillment. And in my mindset, I believe that's your destiny. When you are connected to the right people, for the right reasons, at the right place or location, at the right time. And that is considered to be a puzzle. And when all the pieces fit together, that is when you have what you would call destiny. So you can find that on Facebook under Patricia Tomlinson. And it just gives you so many things to look at, to examine, to observe, and assess as you are embarking on a journey to fulfill goals, new missions, enter into new relationships. Maybe your new thing is business. This gives you insight and wisdom on how to navigate when you enter into it and going through to it and when it's fulfilled. So like I said, you can find that on Facebook under the profile of Patricia Tomlinson. So today I'm excited because I want to talk to you about silent movement. And if I could be quite honest with you, like I said, when I am driving somewhere, that is when I get all of the insight. So silent movement, that's the word that came to me. Actually, I think it was something a little bit different, but I know for sure that the word silent was in there. So when you think about life, I'm actually going to go a different direction. I'm going to share a personal story with you, something that I actually just observed that was creating chronic failure in my life. And I hope that this helps somebody. So when I would get a vision, say a project, a business idea, or something that I wanted to do, I would be excited about it. And I would share it with someone. And when it was shared, even though I was excited, you can either see the disposition on the person's face, you can either hear it in their voices that they weren't excited. So I shared this with people that I presumed, or let's just say assumed, would be excited for me, and they weren't. I'm going to go straight into my bullet points because this is really important. I really want you to understand this. Number 2, I shared it with people with the expectation to work with them. And because they weren't the individuals that I was meant to work with, ultimately what we originally set out to do failed. And I'm going straight into this because I think the title says it within itself. When you get a new vision or a new goal or something for your life, sometimes you have to sit on it. You have to sit on it, and you can't tell anybody. And the people that you tell, you should really pray about even sharing it with them. And I'm going to share an even deeper story with you. There was a time in my life, it was about 12 years ago, where I was seeking God and I was asking Him for direction in my life. At the time, I was working at a bank and I knew that there was no advancement. I knew there was no possibility for me to be promoted because, one, the things at the job that you had to do in order to get promoted, I was not going to do that. I'm not going out to bars with people. I'm not chilling with people after hours. I'm not going to have sexual interaction with someone over me in order to get a promotion. So I knew that that was out the window for me. So I felt like I was at a dead end and I was stuck. I wasn't stuck, but it was a dead end at that job. So I remember I went to my house and I was praying, and I feel like it was like a download of a vision that God gave me. But the issue was, I thought that it was going to be something that happened very quickly. No, it was a total transformation that took close to 12 years for it to come into fulfillment. Hence, the last episodes of the podcast that I just gave you was knowledge for over 12 years. Insight for over 12 years of how I navigated through to ultimately arrive at a place of fulfillment. But what I did wrong was the first two examples. When God gave me this vision, I shared it with family. And I got the snooty looks, and I also got the disagreement or discouragement on their behalf. Because you have to remember, when you get a vision, it's for you. Now, it is going to affect other people, but ultimately that vision is for you. So if other people don't have a vision for their life, sometimes they're not happy for you, because you got to remember, misery loves company. So why? And don't get me wrong, because this is not everybody. I don't want you to become a skeptic about everybody. But I shared this vision, and it was something so simple. It was actually something that I thought all people wanted. It wasn't necessarily materialistic, but in my heart, I was confident. I knew that I was going to have what had been shown to me. Why would God show me something and not do it? So I shared it, and the response was very negative, highly negative, and then all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose, and it seems like I got fought for 12 years to not enter into this place of fulfillment with this vision. And I will be blatantly honest with you. The fighting consisted of homelessness, joblessness, no friends, no one to understand, poverty, mistreatment, misjudgment, usury, exploitation, almost being sex trafficked. Because this is what happens when you have a vision. And so I'm reminded of the story of Joseph in the Bible. You can read that about Genesis 42. In the Bible, Joseph had favor. He had a coat of many colors, and his father favored him. And he had, I believe, 11 other brothers, because I believe that it was 12 of them that were the tribes of Israel, and the 12 sons, that was the names that they were given. The names they were given were the tribes of Israel. And so, and I have to go back and make sure that's absolutely accurate. Nevertheless, if you read that story, he was given a vision, and it was actually a dream. It was actually a dream. And he first told it to his dad and brothers and stuff. And it ended up horrible for him, because ultimately this dream or vision, they tried to kill him. Because the dream and the vision involved him being superior and in a position of leadership that was over them. And so you got to understand, there's a leader for everything. But sometimes when you're the leader, the people that you're around can't fathom that. They can't perceive that. They don't want that. Even though they know it. But for you to know it, that's the problem. There are people walking around in the world all day, every day with mistaken identity. They are following people, but they don't know that they're the leader. People are okay with you following until you come into the total embodiment, or you have an epiphany that you're supposed to be the one leading them, but you're following them. So that's a little nugget for someone to do some self-evaluation. Because if you don't become the leader, you can't possess or have what the leader is supposed to have. So Joseph told his brothers this dream that he had. And then he also told his dad. Now his dad didn't say anything because his dad knew that it was true. But his brothers were extremely jealous. So much to the point that one day they left him, but he went to find them. And when he went to find him, they were conspiring. Here comes that dreamer. And this is a nugget for some people. Stop trying to push yourself into groups that you shouldn't be in. Because you got to understand, these were his brothers, but they went somewhere without him. Maybe the separation was the blessing because he didn't separate himself. It almost cost him his life. So here he is, he's walking, and he's going to find him, and they can see him from afar off. And as he's coming, they're saying, there's the dreamer. But then what they do is they plot to kill him. And then they said, well, what will come from his dream if they kill him? Now, one brother or two said, no, we can't do that. He's our kinsman. But do you know that could have cost him his life, because now he knows the plot against this other person. So it's like, oh, well, now you know we have to get rid of both of you. But for some reason, the brothers knew they didn't kill him. And that was only the grace of God that they didn't kill him. But they did put him in a hole, left him there, took his coat, and sold him. They sold him to some people, which now I understand to be human trafficking. They sold him and he became their slave. And then they put blood on his coat, took the coat back to the dad, and made the dad think that he was dead. And so, because of this dream, which ultimately they wanted to do was annihilate the dream. So, I'm going to come back to that. Joseph goes through 17 years of going in different places. He got into a couple places of leadership there, because remember, the dream was for him to become a leader. So he kept rising up to the leadership position. But every time it happened, they would throw him back down. He would end up in jail. Even his ruler's wife wanted to sleep with him. He didn't do that. And because of his integrity, because as a leader, that is important. Once again, he's doing the right thing. He got thrown down. And ultimately, it wound him up in prison. He ended up in prison. And as he's in prison, once again, his gift comes out, because remember, he's a dreamer. And obviously, he was able to interpret his own dream. But then a cupbearer and a baker end up in prison with him. And they have a dream. And Joseph tells them, in 3 days, one of you is going to be restored. The other one of you is going to get your head chopped off or die. And exactly how he predicted it, or prophesied it, that's exactly what happened. But before they got a chance to talk back to the king, all Joseph said was, just remember me. Remember, when you get back up there and you get your opportunity to talk to the king, remember me. And because they didn't, and he was doing he did a good service to them, they forgot about him. And Joseph remained in prison for 2 additional years. So, I will say this. Even if you do good deeds for people, don't expect anything back from them, because if you're using your gift, your reward ultimately comes from God. Because sometimes a person can't pay you enough for the gift, but the gift will cost you to pay in the form of sacrifice. So that was a sacrifice for him to tell him, like, hey, you guys are going to get out of jail, but then he's going to end up staying there. He could have had an attitude, I'm not talking to anybody. I don't want to have any deals with anybody. Why would I want to tell these people they're going to get out? That should have been my word for me. But you notice Joseph was in a good place. He didn't get jealous like how his brothers did when he told his brothers about his dream to be a leader, because that's obviously what they wanted. They wanted to be favored. He didn't get jealous of somebody else's freedom, even though he was in an unfortunate circumstance. He still gave them what was due unto him. So that's another nugget for somebody. You may be sent to help somebody get, have, or do exactly what you want to get, have, or do. You want to get a new car. You know about building credit. Someone else might come to you and need their credit built up. You help them, regardless if you get the car or not. You may have some childhood experience or knowledge that can help an individual in a relationship with the person that they're in love with, but you don't want to give it to them because you're not in a relationship. You know what that is? Like, that's misery loves company. You have to freely give and freely share what you know to help people. So let's go back to Joseph. He remained in this prison for 2 years. And then at the appointed time, the king was having trouble. The same king that put him in there was having trouble. And so that the cupbearer, I believe it was, remembered Joseph. He remembered the good deed that Joseph did. He remembered that Joseph told his dream, but he remembered that the dream that Joseph told him came to pass, and he got out and his life was spared. And because his life was spared, he was able to go back up and be in fellowship and close connection to the king, ultimately to where when the king was having trouble, they knew where to go for solutions and answers. And it was back to Joseph. Because remember, Joseph's issue started out with a dream. He had a dream that he was able to interpret. The king had a dream that he was able to that he needed interpretation for. So do you know that your gifts are meant to serve a purpose? It doesn't matter where you are. They're meant to help. The purpose is that they are used for acts of service. So here we have Joseph. He's in the pit. He's in jail. He's probably extremely discouraged. He doesn't know how he's going to get out. It seems impossible. He didn't even do what they said that he did. And this is so interesting to me because just this morning, I want to say I was up reading Job 6, and it was the same thing. Job had an internal prison of infirmities in his body, and his mental had deteriorated because of all the things that had happened to him. So he was locked in an inward mental prison of sorrow, and his friends were explaining to him, Joseph, repent, you've done something wrong. And Joseph was like, Job said, no, I didn't. Joseph didn't do anything wrong. That's another nugget. Sometimes you can end up in a bad place even though you didn't do anything wrong, but God can still use it for a purpose. He can still use it to bring good out of it. That's Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good. All things work together for the good, because obviously it feels bad, or it seems bad initially. So here we are with Joseph. He's in the pit. He gets caught up by the king because somebody remembers him, that he's the one that can help. And ultimately that is what pulls him out of prison, puts him in a position that he talked about originally to fulfill the dream. And the wonderful part is the dream was meant to help his brothers. There was a famine in the land. They didn't have any food. And because of Joseph going through adversity and opposition, it landed him in a place that he was supposed to be, to help the people that threw him in the pit to begin with. So what I wanted to say to you is, even though it worked out for him in the end, you have to be careful with who you tell your dreams, your visions, your missions, your relational business to, because some people are extremely jealous and envious, and they're going to throw you in a pit. And then you're going to end up in places that you probably shouldn't have been in. We can't say what Joseph's life should have been like before he got in the pit, but we know he ended up in the pit. Same thing for me. I shared my dream with a couple people, but it worked out because I'm still in a place of fulfillment at this point in my life. But I want you to pay attention to how people respond to you when you give them insight about you. Once you discern that about a person, if they're not happy with you or about what you're going through, you have to use wisdom and move silently. Now, we always correlate the snake as a bad thing. But one thing I can tell you about the snake that is a good thing is that before it strikes, and unfortunately they do strike, it moves silently. So I'm going to turn it around. Before you strike out and head in the destination of your dreams, before you attack it to overcome whatever will keep you from that, move silently. Discretion shall preserve you. And that's what I wanted to say for this podcast. So don't forget to upload the one that's on Facebook in regards to fulfillment. Thank you so much for tuning into the dialogue. Share this with someone so that can be of a help and encouragement to them. And I'll see you guys and speak with you later. Have a good one. Bye. Hello, everybody. So this is not a normal time for me. I normally do and record my podcast in the morning when I am traveling to a destination that I have to go to every day. But for some reason, it was something that recently just happened to me about 20 to 30 minutes ago. And I felt that I would use it as a moment of inspiration so that I can encourage someone while I am encouraging myself. So welcome to the dialogue. My name is Patricia. I hope that you would share this podcast with someone else. However, if you're not able to do that through the link, you are more than welcome to talk to someone else about the information that you received from listening to this podcast. And that is the purpose and the reason that the podcast is named The Dialogue. Because no, you and I are not together as of physically. However, you are more than welcome to go and converse with another person that you feel like this podcast has relevant information to their life, their circumstances, or situation that you feel may help them. So welcome to the dialogue. So today I want to talk to you about the word offense. Not offense like offense in a yard, but more so or less offense when you are offended by someone. And it's so ironic that that word offense sounds like offense, because that is literally what it does. When a person offends you, it builds up walls and barriers that ultimately seem as though they would protect you, like offense can be for purposes of protection. However, if someone is meant to come into your life, a fence will ultimately keep you two separated or keep you out of each other's lives. And so I have gone through a series or a time span of being severely offended, whether it was through racial discrimination, whether it was through being slandered with my reputation, whether it was through being belittled, demeaned, degraded, whatever you may call it. I have experienced a lot of offense recently. And it was so amazing because, like, offense happens. Someone says something to you or does something to you and it doesn't feel good. And then what happens is it goes into your mind because they spoke it, and then it stays there, it resides there, and you continue to meditate on it, how you feel about it, over and over and over until it can't come out of your mind. And what happens when that happens, you get mad at that person. You don't want to deal with them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to have any communication with them. However, I have been challenged to grow through the offenses that have been done to me. And I'm telling you, it isn't just one person. It isn't just one circumstance. It is several situations that are occurring simultaneously at the same time. So I'm going to give you a few disclaimers, and then I'm going to jump off and let you enjoy the rest of your day, because it is absolutely beautiful outside. The sun is shining, and it just feels perfect for some reason. And I'll get more into that as we go through the podcast. So recently, a wonderful person sent me a book called The Bait of Satan. And in this book, it talked about offense, when someone offends someone, and how we ourselves as people get offended over and over and over, and what it actually does to you and your spirit man. Now, offense is very detrimental to the physical person as well, not just the spiritual person. But I do believe that the main reason that so many people have so many mental issues and problems is because they are offended. Someone has done something to them. Someone has said something to them. Okay. Someone has done something to them. You've been molested. You've been raped. You've been talked about. You've been, I want to say denied, betrayed. That's the word I'm looking for. You've been betrayed. You've been humiliated. You've been talked about. Someone has done something to you. Someone has said something about you. Someone talked about your hair. Someone talked about your clothes. Someone bullied you. Someone talked about your work ethic. Someone said something that you don't like. Someone stole something. Someone took something from you. Someone took someone from you. Those are all areas, and I'm pretty sure there are more. You can put yourself in that category and look at what has happened to you and how it affects you. You've been offended. And so as I was reading this book, and it's a beautiful book and I just got done with it today. It is by John Bevere, that is Bevere, and he just detailed how he was offended through several situations, and he took matters into his own hands, and it was so unhealthy for him to do that. He talked about how God was not pleased once things happened to him, and he took matters into his own hands as though he was going to get revenge on the person, whether it was talking about them, degrading them, or exposing what had happened through the situation. This book put a light to my heart, and when I tell you, I was guilty of all of that. See, nowadays, we live in a society where if someone does you wrong, no, they're not gonna one-up me. You're not gonna get that off on me. Or it's a clapback society. Oh, you say something that I don't like, or you say something about me, I'ma serve you. I'm gonna let you know that you weren't right. And then a lot of times, he even talked about how, and this was definitely me, how a lot of times when you're offended, you have to make that person know they did you wrong. Like, you just cannot let it go. You can't let it go. You have to either get an apology, or you have to make that person know that they did you wrong, meaning that you need the apology, but you also want them to admit, I wronged you. So yes, the offense has happened. This person has wronged you. They have done you wrong. They've been doing you wrong. And now, when you see that person, you don't want to be around them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to communicate with them. Let's take it even further. Sometimes you're wishing bad things happen to them. You're wishing their day is messed up. You start to ruminate on what happened, and then you feel justified for how you feel about them, even though it's ill and it's unhealthy. This book was so dynamic. And the ironic part is, I think in 2005, when I was attending a church, we embarked and started to do a book club. A book club. And this was one of the subjects. We were reading the book called Offense, and I did not get to finish that book. And now I'm reading it. And when you become a mature adult, you can actually sit with yourself and you can say, I was wrong for that. I was wrong for that. And then you will begin to feel sorrowful, because you will start to see yourself. Like, I am a firm believer, and I have a dear family member that is dear to my heart that tells me all the time, If someone does you bad, be nice to them. Now, I've heard the term nice nasty. Like, you'll think I'm being nice to you, but I'm really being nasty because it's filled either with all types of sarcasm. But that's not the route to go either. And I'm really trying to help someone. So let me go further, and I'm going to help you understand why it's so important. Why offense is detrimental to you, your growth, your transformation, and where you're going. So, like I said, I've had several situations that have happened to me. But I want to share something with you really quick. Every single time offense rose up, someone said something to me, someone did something to me, somebody hurt my feelings. In the book, the man equated it to working out. And he was saying how when they offend you, it's your response, not your reaction, because so many of us react wrong, and I am quick to react wrong. My temperament can be so horrible sometimes. And I'm really trying to get to the point where I'm more like the women back in the day, where they were quiet, they were meek, they were gentle, they were so feminine and classy. You couldn't tell them women that they weren't women. Yes, they wore tight dresses. Yes, they wore tight clothes. But it was not about the clothes. These women had beauty on the inside. They had ladylike character. And so as I'm reading this book, and don't get me wrong, it even touched on why God allows corrupt managers to be over us. And it talked about building character. And at first, I'm not going to lie, it stung me because I'm like, building character? Why would I need a corrupt manager over me to build character? Because I'm the type of person, I'm going to expose what you're doing if it's wrong. Especially if it's wrong towards me. And the one day I was sitting with someone, they said something so profound. They said, oh, I just remain quiet and just let everything come together on its own. And I said, huh? And this lady was older. And I noticed sometimes when we would have conversations, she would give me this look with her eyebrows like she wanted to respond to what I was saying, but it was like she literally had a key to her lips and would like seal it shut. And so, you know me, I'm like, no, you're not okay, just say it. She said, no. She said, my mother told me that if I don't have nothing nice to say, or if there's going to be something crazy that I'm going to say or respond, don't do it. And I said, wow. So she has patience because she can wait to see how the situation is going to turn out. She has temperament because she doesn't react foolishly. She responds. And then on top of that, she's a real woman because she understands all the time she doesn't need to respond. She does not always need to acknowledge or address what's going on. And that's powerful because that's the element or component of self-control. And when I tell you, this woman is beautiful. Like, she's just the sweetest person. She's had injustices happen to her. As a matter of fact, the same thing I was experiencing and going through, she has endured those same type of situations. I almost think about it now that, like, God put this woman in my life to teach me how to respond and react to different situations, because you can fail the same test over and over and have to take it over and over. And ironically enough, I finished the book today. So I'm here to give to you what I learned. Hope that I can implement it, as well as hope that me sharing it with you will help you as well. So do you know that when God is blessing your life, and every day is a blessing, especially if you know Him, do you know that the enemy will devise plots and plans to get you in a position to where you're offended? And when you're offended, over and over and over, it steals joy, it steals your mentality, because all you do is sit and think about what that person did. It steals your joy. When you have joy, you are so much more, you are stronger. And I'm not just saying that just to say it. For one, it's a scripture, but for number two, it is true. You do feel stronger when you have joy. It's when you feel sad and sulking and depressed and gloomy that you feel weak. When you have joy, you know that everything is going to be okay. So you don't have to have an attitude about it because you know it's going to work out. And because you have that faith and confidence that it's going to work out, you can actually be happy and joyful in that moment. And so what the enemy does is he continues to send people to ruffle your feathers. He continues to send people that say things and do things and make you feel like nothing and make you feel unimportant. And you get upset. You get upset and then you say something that you don't mean. You get upset, you cut that person off, and the next week you're begging for forgiveness. But now they're offended. And that is the cycle. That is the cycle. I'm telling you, I see it so clearly. The cycle is because every time a blessing is on the way, before the blessing, the offense comes. I kid you not. It has been like clockwork. Either the day before or the day of, when a blessing is coming in my life, something will happen that is meant to offend me. And it's not anything small or little. It's the things that get under my skin. Because you can't be offended by something that doesn't bother you if you don't care about it. So it has to be things that you care about, things that are important to you, things that are dear to your heart. Those are the things that the enemy uses on a daily basis to ruffle your feathers. But he has it with a purpose in mind. His purpose, it says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So what happens? He ends up destroying your joy, killing your relationships, and ultimately stealing your faith. Because when you are in a dark place, a heavy place, it's hard to see the other side of the tunnel through faith that everything is going to be okay. But more importantly, what he does is when he offends you, he makes you feel like that person is wrong, which they more than likely are. But he keeps you, for one, seeing that that person needs help. They need help. And then what he also does is he makes you unforgiving. And that's the moral of the story. When you get offended over and over and over, and this person keeps doing the same thing over and over and over, you forget to forgive. Or you don't forgive at all. So now your heart is all stony. You don't got nothing to say to this person. You don't care what happened to them. And your disposition changes from joy to maybe sorrow at first, and then irritation and then frustration. And it seems like it works every single time. And that's why he keeps using it, because it works every single time. He doesn't have to use anything new on you, because the same things work every time. And so what I want to challenge you to do today is several things. First, I want you to start evaluating and observing yourself, to ask yourself what actually makes you upset. What makes you mad? What ruffles your feathers? I want you to pay attention when you get upset and when something does ruffle your feathers. What is it? Number two, I want you to recognize what has offended you. What in your past has offended you? What has made you feel upset and angry to the point where it's even brought up or you think about it? Your whole demeanor, disposition, and attitude change. Now that you've recognized it and you've evaluated and observed yourself, I want you to think about the bigger picture of what is on the other side of this offense. Of this offense. Me saying mad is obviously doing what? What is it stealing from me? What is it taking from me? What is it preventing me from doing? Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. I apologize. What is it preventing me from doing? What is it preventing me from getting to? So sorry. And last but not least, once you think about all of this, I want you to ask yourself, can I forgive? And the answer to that is going to be, of course. So sorry. Of course you can forgive. But the answer is, why haven't you? What is it doing for you to not forgive, to hold on to forgiveness? I need you to understand, unforgiveness causes mental issues. People do drugs and abuse alcohol and all types of substances and defile their body because they haven't forgiven, because they're trying to satiate or use these as coping mechanisms to deal with the pain. Why can't you forgive? Forgiveness, like they say, is not for other person. It is for you. It is extremely healthy. And I'm going to give you a reward through this conversation. The more that you practice forgiving, the more that you do it, the easier it will become. You'll start to notice, okay, this person obviously has some issues or something going on, and it's not me. So I don't have to take on what they're putting on me. I can forgive them and love on them and keep it pushing. Okay, so I'm glad that you tuned in today. Trust me sharing this podcast with you today, it absolutely helped me, because I'm getting to the point of maturity where if somebody do something to me, I don't want what they did to me on me for the rest of the day. I want to have peace for the rest of the day. I want to be enjoyed for the rest of the day. I want to enjoy my life. And you do that by taking back the power that offense has had over you. Whether it's who it's from, what they said, what they did, it doesn't matter. Use it as fuel to turn it into something positive. Forgive that person. Pray for that person. Mind your own business. And just know that forgiveness is the key that oftentimes can unlock purpose in your life and your destiny. What is it costing you? Whatever it's costing you, it's not worth it. Okay? So thank you so much once again for tuning into the dialogue. This is Patricia. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to share this with somebody if you have not as of yet. I trust and believe that it will help them on the journey called life. And I will see you guys the next time, and tune in to the next podcast. Bye.